Namaste, and a heartfelt welcome to everyone joining us for this discovery session on what's really causing the stress, the anxiety, the worry, the burnout that so many of us are talking about. And we've been putting out these questionnaires and surveys about what's really coming up for people in their lives right now. And these last nearly 3 years have been quite a tumultuous time, to say the least, and quite a wild time in terms of the world stage. And, first it was the pandemic and the lockdowns, and then people getting the COVID virus itself, and then all the restrictions that came in, loss of jobs and loss of life with some of our beloveds. And it became a time of absolute uncertainty. And then more recently in this year, then February, Ukraine war started. And of course, that threw the whole world into chaos with what could happen, and the most recent news of possible nuclear threat, and on and on. And it seems that it's like we've been walking like a cat on a hot tin roof. It's like nothing is certain anymore. And of course, that's going to trigger responses inside of all of us, of stress, anxiety, and we're going to get burnt out by that stress and anxiety. And there's a continuous worry that may have not been here before, because prior to all of this uncertainty, we had our life pretty much lined up as we expected to live it. And then it was almost like life pulled the rug out from underneath us, and we were catapulted outside of our comfort zones, and our comfort zones were shattered. And so there's a lot of underlying fear that got triggered. And it may seem like all these world circumstances, and I haven't even begun to name them, the Black Lives Matter sequence and the whole, woke going on right now, and the whole fights around all of that. And it's just going on and on. And it can feel like we don't know from one day to the next what the rules are going to be, the restrictions, how we're supposed to fit into any sense of what's normal. And so we think it's these external circumstances that are causing all of this underlying anxiety and stress. And I'm going to share with you a radical thing right now, that even though life has triggered us, and God knows we've all been triggered big time, that life didn't create the stress. The underlying issues were already stored inside our bodies. And to understand how that could be, you need to dive into the whole area of science and emotions. And there's been a lot of research done in the last couple of decades on the effect of our emotions on our biochemistry and our bodies. And one of the things that science has absolutely unequivocally established is that when you feel a strong emotion and you repress it, you shut it down, you sweep it under the carpet, you pretend it's not there, you go into motion to, get away from it. So when you're at the peak of that strong emotion, and through some strategy or another, you shut it down, it releases into your bloodstream a quantifiable biochemistry, which will go to certain cell receptors and block those cells, rendering those cells incapable of communicating with the rest of the cells in the body. And if over time illness happens, of course it happens, where the cells are blocked. And what's conversely also known to be true is when we feel our emotions very openly and freely and naturally, like a child does, our cell receptors stay open. And what happens is when we freeze, shut down, or try to run away in the face of a strong emotion, and this biochemistry gets released and goes to certain cellular locations in our bodies, the emotions that we felt at that time get buried deep within us. And all the thoughts that we had at the time, the fears that we had at the time, the unmet issues that we had at the time, everything that we felt at that time, when we shut down, when the biochemistry is released in the bloodstream, gets stored inside of our cells. And what they've done a lot of research on cellular healing and the effect that emotions have on our cells. And they found that this buried consciousness, once it's stored there, gets passed on from one cell generation to the next cell generation as a kind of programming. So that this programming is going on inside of you all the time. And so even though you feel like you may have successfully swept something under the carpet, moved on with your life, you now have a healthy way of living life, still those emotions and those trapped issues are buried inside your cells and getting passed on from one cell generation to the next cell generation. I can remember, and many of you already know my story, is that, when I was 39 years old, even though I had been in the field of complementary medicine and alternative healing and personal growth my whole adult life, and certified in so many different areas, I ended up being diagnosed with a basketball-sized tumor. And when I went to the surgeon to be diagnosed, she said it probably started with one cell when you were 8 years old, Brandon. And that cell just replicated and replicated. And then, about 3 months before I ended up at the doctor's office, it went from my tummy being a little bit, had gotten larger to all the cells replicating exponentially. And I looked about 6 months pregnant, but by the time I got to the surgeon. And so we've known for a long time that these cell memories get passed on from one cell generation to the next. And so these emotional issues are stored inside your body. And what's been happening to all of us is that life has been triggering us. And it's the kind of thing, let's say you're in traffic and you're just having a normal day, listening to the music, you're driving along, and someone when there's a lot of traffic just cuts you off in front of you. And out of nowhere, up comes this rage. Now, that person didn't come in the middle of the night and stick that rage inside of you. That rage was already inside of you. And all that happened was that person triggered you, and up came the issue that was already buried there inside of you. So I really wanted to explore today, and for us to kind of begin to investigate, okay, we have these reactions, but what is it that it's born from? What are the emotions that I've been avoiding, running from, escaping, denying, pretending aren't there? What is the real cause of what's creating my stressful reaction in life? And so the journey, it was first born from my own experience of healing from that basketball-sized tumor in only 6.5 weeks' time. And what I found was a method that we can all undergo in a very real and practical way to go on a journey inside your body and actually get access to those blocked cells, to go to certain cellular locations and uncover the consciousness that's stored there, the cell memories that are buried there, the unspoken, unmet beliefs and limitations that you bought into at the time, and to go through a very deep and quite profound radical process of releasing that stored consciousness, that old pain, letting go of that old cell memory, and actually coming to a place of understanding of what's happened to you in your life, and ultimately undergoing a very deep process of forgiveness, where once you've come to understand what's happened to you in your life, and you're finally at a place of having released it all, then you can finally start to forgive yourself, others, life, for the circumstance that happened. So that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. Now, of course, This happened in 1992, so nearly 30 years ago. And over the time, the work has grown and blossomed, evolved, and it's being used by medical doctors and in hospitals and by psychiatrists and from people from all walks of life. As a matter of fact, there's 3 hospitals in Israel where once you've undergone, let's say you had a heart operation, you'll actually go into a recovery center and they do a week rehabilitation, where part of what they're mainly focused on is doing the journey, getting to the emotional root cause of what co-created the illness in the first place, and really learning those life lessons so you don't have to get another wake-up call further on down the line. And the same thing is true with the oncology unit and the hospital that specializes in multiple sclerosis. And so what the journey really is an invitation to all of you to get real and to begin your own healing journey. And so today, because so many of you are sharing that you are having triggered unhealthy responses, where in the past something wouldn't have upset you, and suddenly you're reacting in the way that you would have a long time ago. And that's because life is triggering all of us left, right, and center. And so I thought it'd be beautiful, even though I cannot offer you the full 2-day immersion in the Journey Intensive, which is a real deep roll up your sleeves and dive in and really uncover these cell memories that are stored inside your body, and to really learn the healing method so completely and experientially that you could offer it to anyone in your life as well as your own life. Even though I can't do that, at least we can begin to explore and to investigate what is really underlying my triggered responses. What's underlying all this anxiety and stress? Because it's very easy. I know a lot of therapy out there is you talk about your stress and you try to understand it. And maybe by understanding your story of what's creating your stress in your life, you'll maybe get a chance to let it go. But that never gets to the real root cause. That kind of talk therapy is just that. It's talk. And it's not getting to the emotional root cause of what's stored inside your cells that is causing you to react in the unhealthy way in your life. So if you'd be willing to try a little divine experiment with me, I'd love to kind of just take you into a short guided introspection here, where you can look at some of the recent times where you've responded to life with a fearful response, or got stressed, felt an underlying anxiety, or even had burnout happen. And burnout happens when, in my direct experience, it happens when you've got one foot on the gas pedal, where you're trying to override all the emotions going on inside, and one foot on the brake, where you're trying to stop it. So you're trying to move forward in life and pretend that these things aren't happening inside, that the anxiety isn't there. And then you're putting the brakes on the anxiety itself. And you become like this pressure cooker inside. And after a while, what it does to your nervous system is you get burnt out. It's just too much stress. So rather than trying to cognitively, let me understand why I've got so much stress, we need to get more real than that. We need to be willing to look inside, to discover what buried cell memories and what emotional issues that we swept under the carpet we've not been willing to face. So I thought if we just did this little, it's just a tiny toe dip, but this little exploration, you'd begin to uncover some of the deeper emotional issues that are driving your surface responses. So for this little investigation that we're going to do right now, I'm going to ask you to just let your awareness drift back, over the last 6 months, and notice different times where you have been triggered, where you had a stressful reaction, where you either shouted at somebody, or you shut down and you froze, or something took place where you, circumstantially took place and you froze, you became rigid and paralyzed by what happened, or you tried to escape it, where you had what is an unhealthy stress reaction, an unhealthy reaction that is triggered by something that you have not been able to face inside yourself. So just let your awareness just drift back over the last 6 months, let's say. Certainly all of us, including myself, all of us been triggered in the last 6 months. And not just by what's happening on the world stage, but what's happening in our personal lives as a result of that. Now we've got the energy crisis and fears around inflation and food and being able to pay for heat over the winter. It just goes on and on. So go back to a specific time where you reacted. Either you shut down, or you reacted by shouting out, or you kind of flew into action and tried to escape it, where you had an unhealthy reaction to something external that happened. So just kind of bringing forth these reactions in our awareness. Let's take a nice deep breath in and letting it out and closing your eyes. And now going back to a recent time where you had what I would call a stressful, unhealthy reaction to something someone said, something that happened, something in the news, something that was immediately taking place. But go back to that exact moment where you had that stressful reaction. Go back to that now. And step into the picture of that and really feel what it felt like when you had this stressful reaction of going rigid or freezing or trying to run away from what was happening or shutting down inside of you or shouting out and lashing out as a form of defense. Go back to that memory and step into it and feel what it actually felt like at that time. What your body felt like, your being, even what your mind was saying, what your emotions were. Go back into that exact moment of the exact reaction. And now roll the cameras back to that millisecond before you reacted, where there was almost this impulse to react as a form of defense or shutdown or running away. So there was this drive, this impulse to react in the way that you did. So go back to that moment just before you reacted to the impulse, the drive, and now roll the cameras back a millisecond prior to that and really kind of open with what you were feeling at that time. Just kind of let time become spacious. And what were you really feeling prior to the reaction? What were you really feeling? And even if you're not sure, just going inside and asking, what was I really feeling prior to that reaction. And just feeling yourself allowing that feeling, kind of embracing it with your own acceptance. It might be as quiet as a whisper. And just asking if there were an even deeper emotion stored inside that would, in the core of this more surface feeling, what might that deeper feeling be? If there were a deeper feeling, just allowing it here. If there were a deeper feeling in the core of the surface emotion, what might that feeling be? And if there were an even deeper emotion stored in the core of this emotion that's here, it may not be anything you expect, but if there were, what might that deeper feeling be? And just welcoming whatever's here, and also whatever's not here. And just acknowledging your body and your being, your heart, for opening and allowing whatever's here to be here. And taking a nice deep breath in and letting it out. And now coming to a place of neutral inside of yourself. And welcoming into your awareness another time in the last 6 months that you may have reacted unhealthily in a stressful way. And just let your awareness drift over the last 6 months and noticing how it is you responded. Something happened. Somehow you got triggered and you reacted in an unhealthy way. And just go back to that specific memory of a recent time where you got triggered, where something took place, someone said something, did something, you experienced something, and there was a strong stress reaction of either shutting down, trying to escape, withdrawing, freezing, or lashing out to defend yourself. So go back to this exact memory where this happened. And go step right into the picture of it and feel how you felt as this stressful thing was happening, this stress response, this reaction, this unhealthy lashing out, shutting down, escaping, denial, running away, whatever your reaction was. Go right into that moment and feel how you felt at the time, how your body felt, your mind felt, your being felt. And if there were any words you were saying inside your head to yourself at the time, what might those words have been? And just speaking them out loud right now. So you're reacting, and internally your mind is saying what? And on the count of 3, just speak that out loud into the room. 1, 2, 3. What are some of the beliefs you had at the time? some of the words that were going on inside of you. And as you listen to those words, as you speak them out loud into your room, how do they make you feel emotionally? Now let's take it back from that moment of reaction. And once again, roll it back to that millisecond prior to that impulse to react in the way that you did. And then once again, take it to the moment prior to the impulse to react and open up and kind of stretch time and allow whatever feelings are here to come up, and asking, what was I really feeling prior to that reaction, which was a form of defense? What was I really feeling? And just allowing and welcoming whatever you're feeling here. You don't have to do anything to fix it, just the allowance of it. And just asking if there were a deeper feeling in the core of this more surface feeling, what might that deeper feeling be? If there were a deeper feeling in the core of this more surface emotion, what might that deeper feeling be? And opening into that. And then asking if there were an even deeper feeling in the core of that feeling, what might that feeling be? It might not be at all what you're expecting. So just staying open. And just this welcoming whatever's here and whatever's not here. And just surrounding this feeling with your own acceptance, your own love. There's nothing you have to do with it. Just allowing your body this invitation to reveal what's here. Just surrounding it with acceptance. And taking a nice deep breath in. And letting it out. And another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And letting your heart be as wide as the world. A vast open sky of all acceptance of everything that lives inside of you. That's how vast this vast open sky is. And now turning your gaze inside your own body. And you already know this, that the body's like this container full of all kinds of emotions. And you know, some of our emotions, they're strong and they're attention seeking like a child is, you know. And some of our feelings, they're more shy. And others of your emotions, you've rejected them so many times, they don't even come up anymore. And you might even like to say you're sorry to your emotions. And just let them know that everything that's here is all welcome. And then letting your awareness right now be drawn to an area of your body where there may be a little tension or stress or holding or hiding or contraction going on. Go to that area. And now take a deep breath in of acceptance, flooding that area with acceptance, letting it soften and open and be marinated and tenderized. And if there were a feeling starting to arise out of that area, what might that emotion be? Just welcoming whatever's here and also whatever's not here. If this area could speak and it had words, what would it say to you right now? Give it a voice. How does this area make you feel emotionally? Or perhaps there's a lid over this area where you're hiding something. If there is a lid, and most of us, there is some sort of lid, we've been literally keeping something under wraps. Well, then like you would peel the lid off a can of peanuts, just right now, take hold of this lid and lift it off. What's hiding here? And if it could speak, it had words, what would it say right now? And just flooding this now with your own acceptance, your own love. Let's come to neutral inside and finding another area of your body where there may be a little tension or stress or holding or hiding or contraction going on. Locate that area right now. And take a deep breath in of acceptance. And now flooding that area with acceptance. Letting it be marinated and tenderized and opened. And if there were a feeling just starting to rise spontaneously out of that area, what might that feeling be? And just allow it up here. You don't have to do anything with it, just allowing it. And if it could speak and had words, what would it say right now? And on the count of 3, just speak out loud into your room what this part of your body is trying to say. 1, 2, 3. Just speak out loud, whatever words are here. And as you listen to the words, how do they make you feel emotionally? And again, if there's a lid, take hold of the lid and lift it off. What's hiding here? Give it a voice. Or if there's pictures, how does it make you feel emotionally? Welcoming whatever's here and whatever's not here. And just taking a deep breath in of acceptance, flooding this area with acceptance, letting it be tenderized, softened, and let it completely be embraced in your own acceptance. And then you might like to tell your body and your being that for once, you're going to start listening to your body, to what's really going on here inside. We know that all those surface reactions were just a defense. But these deeper emotions inside, they're crying out to be met, for you to be present to them, to listen to what your body's trying to communicate to you, to hear what it has to say. Your body is calling out to you to participate in your own healing journey, first and foremost by being present to what's here inside of you, and then to begin your own healing journey. So if it feels appropriate, just decide you're going to start this process of listening deeper to what your body is trying to say. Take a nice deep breath in, letting it out. And another nice deep breath in and sighing it out. And the awareness remains vast and spacious, free and endless in front of you. Boundlessly spacious behind and infinite to all sides of you. And it's just this vast, open sky of all acceptance. Take a nice deep breath in, letting it out. And one more nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And you can open your eyes now into this field of presence, of acceptance. And I'd love to hear from some of you. You know, some of you began to discover that you had a surface reaction, but when you rolled the cameras back, there was actually something much deeper driving that defended reaction. And some of you it was the second time we rolled the cameras back that something much deeper revealed itself. And for some of us, it was going inside of the body and recognizing that there are feelings that are stored there, that we've carefully pushed away, denied, run away from, that have been buried there. And so I wanted to give you the opportunity just to write in the chat box some of the kinds of emotions that you have been uncovering just in this very short exploration we've been doing. I know that surface reaction looked like one thing, and you probably had a story around that. But when you take all of that surface reaction away, there's something much deeper driving our stressful reactions. And so what are some of the emotions that you uncovered that are buried deeply inside? If you'll write them in the chat box, and Gabby, as people write them in the chat box, if you'll speak them out loud.
Yeah, I had reactions from humiliation, rejection, fear of death, vulnerability.
Wow.
I did the exercise myself, actually, and helplessness came up.
That's what came up for me as I was doing it.
Yeah.
I was literally saying the words as I was on this side of my body. I was saying, I need help. You know?
And somebody's responding powerlessness. Yeah, it's similar,
yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So these are all pretty strong emotions. And of course, all of us, none of us were given a manual.
There's some more, Brandon. It's frustration, expectations, shame.
Yeah.
Shame, somebody else, alone, weak, not seen.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are quite strong.
Quite strong. These are very deep emotions. And I think you're beginning to see that our surface stress reactions are simply a form of defense, where these strong emotions of helplessness, powerlessness, shame, unworthy, you know, all of these emotions are here. And someone triggers us and it starts to come up. And what we do instead is fight against it and lash out against that person, we defend against it, we shut down, we run away from it. We'll do anything but feel what's really going on inside. And it's true, none of us were given a manual how to deal with these strong emotions. But when we're at a peak of a strong emotions, as science says, and you shut it down, it releases that biochemistry. And then that emotion gets passed on from one cell generation to the next as programming that you have your whole life long. And so what the invitation is here is for all of us to get real and to really begin our own healing journeys. And if I had to give a metaphor for what is the journey really all about, the best way I could describe it is to say that all of us came into this world as this radiant, shining diamond, absolutely free as a vast field of love, of oneness, where we felt ourselves to be part of all of life, that all of life was happening in us as this vast field of awareness. As a matter of fact, science says when a newborn is born, and for the first several weeks of its life, it feels itself to be this field of love. And when mother's hand comes before its eyes, the infant actually feels mother's hand as being part of itself. There's no separation. There's just this enlightened awareness, this oneness. We all came in as that. But unfortunately, through the course of life's pains and trials, because none of us were given a manual how to deal with it, we go through a series of shutdowns. And it can be something simple, like you're crying about something and you're 3 years old and your mother says, come, we've got to get to nursery school. Dry your tears, we got to go. And the child gets it. Oh, I'm not allowed to feel, at least not the ones with the tears. And the first involuntary, automatic shutdown happens. And when you start shutting down one emotion, you start shutting them all down. I can remember when I was 8 years old, and I came from a very domestically violent household. And the way I used to escape was into my children's books. And of course, if you loved reading as much as I loved reading, well, I became a good reader and a good speller. And we have this contest in the United States called the Spelling Bee. And what they did is they had all the schools in the whole county get together, and they brought one student from each grade, each class. And I was chosen for the third graders. And so we were in this big stadium auditorium where all the teachers were there and all the students were there and all the parents of the contestants were there. And I was standing on stage and I'd already spelled 3 difficult words. And then they gave me probably the easiest word in the English language, the word fleet. But I'd never seen that word in any of my children's books. But I had seen the word flea, an insect, and I said F-L-E-A-T, and the whole stadium, it was hushed. And all at once, it erupted into laughter. Now, no one had given me a manual. How do you deal with mass humiliation in front of your friends and the parents, your peers? And I looked to my mom, who was sitting in the 3rd row, for her support. And she looked back at me as if I was the greatest disappointment in her life and just shook her head and went like this. And it was like this wall just came slamming down inside of me. I went to go sit with the rest of the losers at the back of the stage. And that day I decided, I'm so stupid that I'm just a laughing stock. People will only laugh at me. I'll never be good at anything I do. I'll never succeed at anything I do because I'm just too stupid. I'm laughable. It's like this. Layer upon layer of these shutdowns, and the beliefs get connected to the emotions. So humiliation connected to I'm stupid, Everyone will always only laugh at me. I'll never succeed at anything. I can remember when I was 16, I got this crush on this guy, and I tried to impress him, and you know how that goes. And I made a total fool of myself. And I watched the first love of my life literally running out of my life, and I started running after him. And of course, that day I decided, I'm so unattractive. I'm so unworthy of love. I will never attract someone who I'm attracted to. I'm just not lovable enough. Like this, layer upon layer of emotions connected with the beliefs from that time. Now, these emotions get buried inside of us and stay inside of us. And then as adults, it doesn't matter how many countries I go to, we've offered the Journey seminars in 39 countries. This whole mess of all these lies and shutdowns and pains and negativity and negative beliefs, we cover it all over with this mask, this polished mask that we present to the world. And then we wonder why it is everyone thinks we're so full of, you can finish that sentence. And then if you get to be very lucky, as I have been more lucky than I can thank God, life, the universe for. Life gives you a wake-up call. Now, these wake-up calls can come in so many forms. It could come in the form of a pandemic and all those restrictions and lockdowns. It can come in the form of a loss of a loved one, or a loss of a job, or feeling that you're scrambling to put food on the table. It can come in the form of a divorce. And in my case, it came in the form of a serious illness, where for one moment, you decide it's time to get real. And you crack through this mask that you've been presenting to the world. And spontaneously, you end up opening down through the layers of the pain, the lies, the shutdown. And eventually you end up opening into this vast, infinite field of love, of feeling connected to everything, to God, to life, to each other. And you realize it's been there all along. Only like me, you identified with all the layers that covered it. And then if you get to be very lucky, you fall so in love with the truth inside of yourself that, like me, you will do anything to clear whatever blocks you, whatever shuts you down, whatever limits you on any level of being, so that this radiant love that is here, that is yourself, can live your life. So if I had to say, what is the journey all about? It's about getting real. It's recognizing that the surface stress you are feeling and reacting to is not where it's actually happening. It's about cracking through this whole identity that you've created of yourself in the world and opening down through the layers of the lies, the shutdowns, the pain, discovering the love inside of you. And at the deepest level, at the level of the soul, you turn the flashlight, the torch on inside. And you go on a journey inside your body to specific cellular locations to uncover in a very real and profound way the actual stored cell memories that are there, uncovering the pain, the unspoken words, and you go through a radical process of release and letting go, understanding, ultimately forgiveness, so that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. And so if you're looking to really get to the root of your stress and to come to a genuine place of peace inside, I, with all my heart, invite you to the upcoming Journey Intensives around the world that are happening on all the different continents, from Australia to Europe to America. They're happening all over. And It's really, even in South Africa, it's an invitation to you, not for me, but your soul is saying to you, it's time to come home. And the journey is a practical method that even hospitals are using to find your way home to that infinite intelligence that's capable of healing every aspect of your life and healing your body. And so if ever there were a time that life is calling you, that yourself is calling you, this is that time. And I've been blown away. Last month, our whole journey team, our international team, became aware of all that's happening around the world with the inflation, the energy crisis, the Ukraine war, on and on. And we became aware that more than any other time in history that we've lived in, there's a need for people to have these skills. And so it used to be way back, even when I started 28 years ago, it was 5 times the price that they're offering at it now. And I can't even believe how they can afford to do this. They're offering the full 2-day intensive plus a bonus day for 97 euros or $97 or 147 Australian dollars. And it would normally be about 5 times that amount to undergo the journey intensive. And it's such an incredible offer that they've made to make this work available to those who could not have afforded it at another time, because we're aware that if ever healing was needed, this is that time. So if you're feeling that your heart is pulled and you really want to liberate your life and come home to a genuine sense of peace and wholeness, and to clear what's blocking you, what's creating all the stress in your life, then I warmly and strongly recommend you find your way to the Journey Intensive. And also, if you have any question, is this work for me? Can I undergo it in my own time zone? Or am I the right candidate to do this kind of work? Because it's very deep work. It's not work for people of casual interests who are wanting, a feel-good seminar that's, I think positively and my whole life will be changed. If ever there's bullshit, that's the biggest one. Because when part of you is saying, yes, I'm going to get that job. Yes, I'm going to get that job. Another part of you that you haven't addressed is saying, no way, I'm not the kind of person who's going to get that job because I don't have the talent, the skills. I'm not worthy of it. And so the truth of the matter is those feel-good seminars that try to get you to think positively and do positive affirmations are palliative, but they don't give you the tools to finally get real and clear these issues out at a cellular level, to not only heal your life and heal your emotions, but to heal your body. I mean, my prayer is that it's not like what happened to me, that you don't end up with, having suppressed it to such a degree that it ends up as illness down the line. That's not my prayer. My prayer is you give yourself your wake-up call now, and you give yourself this gift. So listen to your own heart. If you need to talk to someone on a chat line, you can do that, or just decide you're worth it to commit 2 days to yourself to heal your life. So I look forward to seeing you again, and I'll be seeing you at the upcoming Journey Intensives. And to everyone, a heartfelt namaste.